So what are all of your comics?
I'm Travis Server. I do Hainted Holler, which is based around a small, strange southern town, the weird people that inhabit it. Our motto is that we give you your money's worth because we're free.
I do Reality Amok at racomics.com, and the idea behind it was you're not supposed, they tell you that in polite society you shouldn't talk about sex, politics, or religion, but no one ever called the internet polite, and that's a good thing for us. So,
is there anything on the internet except for sex, politics, and religion?
There's sex on the internet?
But my main characters are at opposite ends of Generation X, because I always thought it was ridiculous that they would say someone born in 1965 and someone born in 1982 would have anything in common other than they breathe. So I have my characters range that, and so you have a point of view from that older end of Generation X and the younger end, and then, okay, here's this 20-year-old thinking that they're all insane.
Well, yeah, I'm sorry about that. I wanted to tweet that we were at this panel, so maybe some people will come.
If you tweet it, they will come.
You never know. Yeah, I'm Christian McCauley. I do sticky comics, which is mostly one panel, sometimes a couple panels, hand-drawn, simple, kind of cute, should be funny kind of stuff. Stickycomics.com, thank you. I did start it more than a few years ago, kind of, but I didn't really intend to be starting a webcomic. So 2 years ago, I guess I launched a real stickycomics.com website for it. So you can say it's a new webcomic.
I'm Allison Tarnoff. I do Knit Princess. It started in January 2009 and actually oddly launched the same day as the other knitting comic, which is a print one called Knit Heroes, and we launched on the exact same day. We've never met. It's like the universe said, you know what I could use? Knitting comics. and then there was two of us. So I don't draw at all. I'm terrible, and so I'm the writer-creator.
Swing by my booth, I'll show you bad art.
Oh.
One of my friends.
I would do stick figures, but you can't really show yarn with that. So, but yeah, so I'm an artist.
One of my friends looked at my early scripts and he goes, I never knew you had palsy so bad.
But we actually, you always hear the discussion of you find that niche and niche, N-I-C-H-E, and you can have there's an audience for everything on the internet. And I have a lot of friends who knit. And so as we were going through the intervention, who's coming and whatever, and they see this and they're like, you should talk about knitting. So there's at least 4 people extra now that are going to be looking at your page because they're like, this is so cool because they love to knit. And here's a strip about knitting.
Exactly.
I mean, if you're a librarian, there's Unshelled. It's like, what the hell?
When did you say you launched?
Surfing comic?
I launched January 2009. I never thought ever about doing comics. My brother is actually a really talented artist, but he kind of got out of it. And when he was a kid, he grew up wanting to do comic books. He never did anything really with his art. And then I have a friend from college, Eric Kimball. He does X-Arm, and we were talking, and he's like, because I just lost my job, and he was like, what you should do is now that you have time, it's like you should do a webcomic. You're funny. Okay, I'm not going to do that. No one's going to read it. And he's like, it would be about knitting. And he went through my blog and came up with a couple of scripts to start Knit Princess. And I'm like, no one is going to read a comic about knitting. And now we update 3 times a week. We get about 10 to 15,000 hits a week. I do some exclusive comics for an online knitting magazine. People don't know there's online knitting magazines either. You have to be in the know. There's at least 4. So,
The existing fan base.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a niche, but it's also a really big niche. So that helps. I mean, it's not, just, Swedish surfers or something.
But that's something to look for. I mean, don't create your comic to fill a niche, but if you find a niche that likes your comic or is somehow connected to your comic, feel free to explore that. that's where you get some great,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
connections.
I've been knitting for 10 years and only doing the comic for a little under 2. So, yeah. People look at it, it's like, oh, shoot, I guess knitting. I'm actually a knitter. I'm not really, I don't even think of myself as a comics writer even. I'm like, I'm a knitter and I do this other crazy thing.
Well, that's what they say, draw what you know.
Exactly.
You know,
Or write
what
what
you
you know.
know, because if you're phoning it in,
Yeah.
it's like, oh wow, Warcraft is really popular, so I'm going to do a strip about World of Warcraft. If you don't actually play or get it, people that actually do play and get it, they smell the fact that you're phoning it in, and you know it's like, okay, thanks for Googling, you know, what this was.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, if it's something that you're actually interested in and know.
Yeah, the hardest thing for me is that my artist is actually not a knitter. So I'm always sending her, when I say I resize the pictures of the yarn, I'm sending them to her just so that I'm like, okay, I wanted her to do a skein of it. This is what a skein looks like. so that's the hardest part for me.
And sort of back in the day, user-friendly got huge because of the Slashdot community. They don't have the greatest art, but they'll.
Well, that's interesting. Like, how do a lot of us get our readers? I mean,
Wait, you
Yes,
guys have readers?
yeah.
well, yeah. I mean, I some people come to the website now and then. So,
90% of the people read mine I run into every day. So I mean,
really, what? How's that? Do you work
it's
with
just,
them? Or?
yeah, my friends and family, and it's starting to pick up now. But see, I started out on Drunk Death. I built a kind of a fan base there, and I got my own site. And then, even though I put up a notice that I was moving my own site, I'm just starting to slowly get back to the numbers that I had on Drunk Death.
Right.
Yeah.
Because people just didn't know, you know, and that was the last thing. It's like, I'm moving to here. Like, I'm update for here from now on, and it just.
I think one of the best transitions like that was when Brad Geiger, who's over in the artist side, when he shifted from Greystone Inn to Evil Inc. I mean, it's kind of like in the same universe or whatever. But he did that. There was like a 3-month overlap where he was updating both. And over on the old Greystone site, it kept reminding you, hey, this story is ending, and it's going to continue at Evil Inc. or evilcomic.com. And so he gave people plenty of, like 90-day warning. Hey, just to let you know, this is going to stop. And then he left the page, he's able to leave the page up saying, hey, this story has ended, but if you'd like to see more, go to the new place.
Yeah, I started putting mine up on Comic Space originally, and then it was not very long when I realized that, obviously if I was going to be serious about this, it should have its own website. So then I started putting it up on a blog, and it wasn't really like a web comic as much as just a blog with my drawings on it. And then I eventually made it more of a web comics format after a while. Yeah, I don't actually. I mean, if anyone here is thinking about starting a web comic, you had to move off of Drunk Stuff because after a while you just don't want to be on a network like that.
Right. Well, with me it was figuring, one, that I wanted to have my own site and my own domain, but two, Drunk Duck at the time, I don't know what's going on, they lost my comic 3 times in one day. And it was like, no. No, and luckily a friend of mine actually has a server, and his business is he does church websites, and he's like, I can sneak you onto the back end of my server if you want your own site. So he's got this comic strip that features a biscuit flinging superhero and an ear raping baboon piggybacking on a server full of church websites.
Okay, now I totally want to read your comic.
Yeah, my comic is totally PG about knitting, and it's actually paid for by Xerd, which is naked ladies. So people buy subscriptions, and some of the money for buying the titty girls goes to pay for Knit Princess.
I went about this all wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, my friend knows code, and I use Comic Press, which was a great program, but he installed it for me, everything. We're sitting there, and most of Comic Press just sort of drag and drop widgets, and he's sitting there looking at me and goes, hope you know what's going on, because I'm lost at this point. Like, that's not good, okay? That's not good. You're my computer guy. This is not good for
What in the hell?
So are you here because you're interested in starting webcomics? Do you have any specific questions about
Have you started a
we do it.
webcomic?
I started one,
Mhm.
so I want to know what you guys do to like advertise, because a lot of the other panel speech people have been in it for a really long time, so
Right.
they've already built the name way back when, so it
Right.
doesn't
Back
matter
when
what
they
they do now.
Back when there were 5 webcomics on the web and they started the 6th one,
Yeah.
it was a little bit easier to
Yeah.
build an audience.
And now there's like hundreds of thousands, so what do you do
One
to
thing-
advertise and build?
I have 0 budget for my comic, so everything, has to kind of pay for itself or find some way to get it for free. I mean, and since I have to pay for hosting and all this other stuff, it's like, all right, it's not a lot that I'm paying every year, but it's still money coming out of my food budget. And I like to eat. It's a good thing. I signed up with the Project Wonderful stuff.
Yeah.
It's not, you're not pulling in, a house payment on this thing. But what I started to do for advertising would be, okay, you can set the settings where I put like $5 in. But I said, okay, find all of the sites that are advertising, that have a 0 price on their ads. Put me there. And at the same time, you're accepting, ads on your site. Well, if you get enough, ads going, after a while you start pulling in more. Yeah, it's only pennies more, but you're bringing in 4 cents a day, and then you're spending 2 cents a day on advertising. So it just kind of feeds itself.
Yeah, that's what we do too. We do Project Wonderful. I think we have 2. We got like a long vertical one and a shorter horizontal one above the comic. And I know we just run them all the time, and we actually, instead of doing constant advertising, we wait until we have a specific amount built up in the
Right.
account, and then we do short advertising bursts. It's like all this, I can always tell when we're doing an advertising burst because the account goes. Must have been advertising. But the best part is that it never quite goes down to the level where it was before. So you're getting some people who are like, yeah, the knitting comic, hell yeah, I'm coming back to that. So it, instead of it started here and then like that. So that's how we run the
Another
advertising.
thing to do is Google. Sign up for their AdWords. I think you have to pay a $10 setup fee. But once you sign up, and don't pay the fee at first, just sign up for it. Like, yeah, I'm thinking of advertising, and then just let it sit. Because eventually, you're going to get a letter from Google that gives you a card with $100 worth of advertising credit going, hey, we noticed you had an account, and we can help you build your business. Here's $100 to start. You're not going to get a lot of hits off of it, but you're paying $10 to advertise on Google so that whatever your subject matter is, they'll help you pick the right keywords. Like since I do a gag-a-day type comic, it was like if somebody searches for pickles, Bloom County, PvP, if they search for any of that, I want my name to show up over on the side. And then again, you can adjust, okay, but I don't want to pay more than 5 cents for that because I want this $100 to last as long as possible. So, at least, I saw, I don't know, a good 1 or 2% bump on something like that. You're not, bringing it in, but then that's where, once you get their eyes on the page, you got to deliver. Constant update, you got to be consistent with your updates. You got to always put your A game out there because this might be your one chance. That page that's up there, every day is potentially the first time somebody has seen your comic. Especially now. If you're just now starting out, this is the first time I have a chance. Boom, let me look at it. Yeah, it's all right. And I'm not going to come back. Or, okay, that's pretty fun. Let me hit that back button. You shouldn't be advertising if you haven't got something on there. More than 5 or 6 comics because if you're, yeah. And I still wouldn't be putting too much, even with 36, I wouldn't be putting, it's like, okay, I'm going to put my entire food budget for the month on advertising because this is going to get them in here. Don't start that. Word of mouth is the greatest thing, but it's the hardest thing to get. But, there's the old thing about, back when forums were popular, and if you're still going to forums, there's a lot of good ones out there, but starting a new one is kind of hard. But if your comic is about a certain subject, join these forums but don't go in going, hey, I've got a comic about knitting. Come on over. People don't like that.
That doesn't work. But,
But
the
if-
knitting forums,
But if
definitely.
put your signature, put a link to your comic in your signature, but don't say a thing about it. And, you know, again, you should be doing a comic about something you're interested in or know about, so when they're discussing it, you join in the conversation. Oh, yeah, I thought that guy was an idiot too. Or, yeah, you know, she did the overhand twist with her knitting needles, and that was insane. But don't
Do not
mention...
even laugh. English versus Continental is huge.
But don't mention the comic. So they read your comic, they're like, oh, yeah, you know, she knows what she's talking about with the knitting here, you know. Oh, what, she got a link, what's this? Oh, she does a comic about, yeah, this is funny, okay, this is good. And you'll build a lot more than if you start going and just spamming forums going, hey, look at me! Because it gets irritating.
Yeah, I don't know. I think, and it also just makes you look like a jerk. You
Yeah.
know?
But granted, now some places do have a section of the forum that says, hey, you know, advertise your stuff here. And yeah, so it's perfectly acceptable for that, but you're not going to get that much. I maybe get 2 or 3 people show up from, like if I go to Comic Press, every time I update my site, I go, you know, I'm in the forum and they have a showcase thing, and I go in there and say, okay, yeah, I made these changes with the last upgrade, and I changed the color here. If you can check out my site, because I'm just asking them, you know, this is a forum where we're discussing Comic Press. I just asked them, hey, take a look at my site and tell me if you could improve something, or am I, you know, doing this right? Well, while they're doing that, well, the comic is front and center. So it's the first thing you see when you get there. So I get a few comments like, oh yeah, hey, I checked out your comic while I was there. It's funny, haha. And you know, you'll see a couple of people start showing up then.
Well, it's also nice when people are sharing your work on social networks like Dig or Reddit or that kind of thing. Although, you know, like sometimes people, like, I'll find one of my comics has been on Reddit that day, and then I'll go read the comments, and some of them are really nice, and then some of them are like, this is so dumb, and I'm like, well, you know, I kind of wish I hadn't read that, but I, you know, usually get over it.
I've had people actually get into a fight where one person didn't like the comic and one person did like the comic on Reddit. And I was still trying to figure out what the hell Reddit was.
Yeah.
And someone goes, oh yeah, you know, because at the time, and I've learned to get over it, but I was a Google Analytics junkie. Because it's like, okay, I posted, how many people showed up? How about now? How about, don't do that, because you just make yourself crazy.
Yeah.
Spend that time sketching and drawing or writing or something.
Yeah, I got a bad review and once, like right at the very beginning. It's like basically they said that I wasn't a real knitter. What?
You ain't hardcore.
I have a knitting tattoo. I'm totally hardcore.
Not hardcore enough.
So, yeah, I mean, you can't let yourself be crazy, but especially if you're going to be doing advertising, be sure that you're going to do a regular posting schedule.
Right.
Like if you do, you know, even if it's like one comic a week, or, you know, as long as it's consistent, it really helps.
If I know every Monday when I go to work and go to this god-awful job where they're going to suck the life out of me, and the only revenge that I have is I can steal 5 minutes of internet time and look at a comic and to the man, you know, and if I know every Monday your comic is going to be there and I've liked the last 3, you build a habit where you come in, you sit down, you got the coffee, click it on, all right, pull up my RSS feed and run through the comics that I'm reading, and you know, but if you're not there, it's like, oh, I haven't heard about you for a while. I mean, there were several comics that I used to read that if I had a hard drive crash, that was how I cleaned up my bookmarks. That my hard drive would crash. Well, the only people who got their bookmarks back were the people that I remembered and that were always updated. If they hadn't updated in 6 or 7 months, it's like, oh God, what was that guy? He used to have the one about, there was the cat and there was this guy.
Garfield?
There was this orange cat. I don't know if it was Garfield. You know, or there were these 2 guys on a there were these 2 guys on a couch and they played video games. Which one was that? But so as long as you're consistent, that's going to help because people build a habit. And I read PvP for a like 3 years without knowing I was reading it because I'd given up on it, but it's like, all right, it updated. All right, it updated. And I think that's half the reason he gets the page counts he gets is because people all day long when he's later going, is it up yet? No. Is it up yet? No. Is it up yet? No. And those are all his. He only has like 5 readers. Is it up yet? Is it up? No. He's a great guy.
I was really nervous when I started that I was not going to be able to keep up. So I'm like, I'm just going to do once a week. Once a week. And it was going well. It was going pretty well. I'm like, okay, I think I can do twice a week. And we did that for a couple of months, and I was still able to keep up. So now we're on a 3 times a week schedule. And as long as, I mean, you know, we built it up, and I made a big deal about it. It's like, double your princess, double your fun, kind of, you know, when I went to twice a week, and it really helps. So, you know, just if you set it up and you're doing something regular, even if you start a little slower than you were thinking you would, if you're being consistent about that slightly slower schedule until you know that you can do it more regularly.
But just like you made a big deal about it, which was good that way, don't start the comic and go, 5 days a week, awesome, every day, come on out. And then go, oh wait, yeah, I've got that doctor's appointment, I won't be able to do one today, and I've got to go out of town. And then you end up doing 1 or 2 a week. Even though, hey, we're 5 times, big banner across the top, 5 times the action, woo! Don't. God.
That's just going to piss people off.
Yeah, that's why my official schedule is now 3-ish times a week, because like I don't want people to give me a hard time if I only do 2, or if I happen to go on vacation, like, you know, I mean, people really do rely on you, and, you know, getting an email that's like, where's the comic? It's like, you know, you really feel like you're on the line, you know, and you know, I tend to shirk responsibility, so I prefer.
But you made it here.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, I make 5 days a week, and honestly, I've worked on the comic in the middle of like a Mexican restaurant with dinner with my family to make my deadlines. I've done it at work, sitting in the passenger seat of the car. I mean, but real life's going to interfere. You're going to miss updates.
Unless you build a buffer.
Yeah,
Unless you're one of
that's
the
what I
smart people and build a buffer.
Not me, but
Yeah.
and I have heard that there's this thing called a buffer.
Yeah.
And so when you have an emergency,
I do that. Well, I tend to write better in spurts, so I will just like, okay, I'm going to have a writing day, and I sit down and I have a goal based on how many times I'm able to do it. So I know that I'm 3 times a week, so my goal is usually 6 comics or 9 comics, so that I know how many weeks I'm ahead. There is nothing scarier than your artist creeping up on you. It's like, oh crap, there's only like 4 comic strips left that I've written. I should probably have a writing day.
see, a lot of my stuff is topical, so I can't go too far out. Otherwise, I'm making, you know, I'm just now starting to post strips about the BP oil spill, and it's like, yeah, that's kind of.
Yeah, mine's more slice of life, so.
Yeah, I mean, some of those I've actually built a reserve of just, okay, this happened to me, I thought it was funny, I'll do a comic, but I'm not going to post it. And that becomes like a rainy day comic, where it's like, oh crap, you know.
I'm really stuck right now, and I can't do it.
You know, and if I have a storyline going on, I can't use it there because it's going to interrupt the storyline. But as long as, you know, and then if I start seeing that, okay, I'm going to start a major storyline, well, before I start that, to give people kind of a break between, okay, this was kind of heavy, now there's going to be another story start, I can throw a couple of those fluff pieces in there to just kind of go, okay.
Yeah, I do that too between longer arcs. I either have something with the cat trying to drive things crazy, or I do, I have 2, like, 6 panels. Most of my comics are 4 panels, but then I have 2 6-panel features that go in between longer arcs that ask Auntie Princess, or people email me with knitting questions, and then I answer the questions, or Auntie Princess's knitting tips, where you're supposed to learn from Princess and become a better knitter. So it doesn't usually work out well for Princess. So, and those kind of go in between, just break up the action a little bit. Not that I have an action-packed comic.
Yeah, something else you could do is actually make, you know, if there's a webcomic you like, actually contact the artist, or, you know, this supposed to be your Legend of Bill, David Reddick. I struck up a friendship. I love the comic. I just sent him an email. Then all of a sudden I got an email from him because, you know, I did a webcomic. He's like, you want to do a guest script? Because I got to take some time off. Or send somebody fan art. I mean, he hadn't posted my guest script yet because he's in the middle of this big epic story arc, and mine's kind of a fluff piece because I didn't want to interrupt his big epic story arc. But that's also sent me some fan art. He put that up and he's like, "Yeah, this is Travis Server. He does Ain't It Holler," and it's like, whoop. You know, it's dropped back down, but it's higher than it was before. And I'm on Twitter, and I get all these weird people following me. And this one, the action flip chick, I've never heard of her. And one of my friends is like, "Oh God, she's following you? You need to send her fan art."
Yeah.
And I did, and same thing. I was like, "What?"
Be interesting on Twitter. Don't go try, the whole look at me thing again. But just, if you're into Twitter and Facebook, when you update, just go ahead and say, "Oh, new comics up," and let that be it. If people are interested, go to it. If they're not, don't bug them all day going, "Did you look yet?" I did the comic this morning. But be smart about when you post that. Because, all right, what time are people getting to work? Okay, if you're tweeting, "Hey, new comics up at midnight," well, if the people who read your comic are up all night, then all right, they probably saw it. If they're following 3,000 other people and, well, somebody's already pushed you off the queue there. So, post about your updates at the time that you think your audience is going to, where's your target audience? Are they at work reading it on the work computer? Then, okay, tweet about it at like 8 or 7:30, 8 o'clock, and say, "Hey, new comic up." And you might see a bigger spike, or on Facebook, or whatever.
Actually, I like to update like at whatever time of day. But make sure that it's always different. I don't know. I guess my fans probably hate me. But I always update sometimes I get up at 9 and I'm not a morning person. Anyway, I'll get up at 9 and go and update at 9 in the morning, and then sometimes I'll update at 5 in the morning right before I go to bed.
It's like those treasure hunts.
Yeah, so it's you never know when it's gonna happen. But
It's a surprise.
3 times a week. Yeah.
Any more questions? Getting that first audience though is tough, and it can get to a point after a year of doing it, why are people not reading it? Screw this. Go do something else. Well, if it's a good idea and it's a good concept or whatever, and there has been some growth, it takes more. People look at Penny Arcade and go, "Well, look at those guys. I've been doing this for 9 months now. What the hell? Where's my $1 million? Where's my PAX?" Well, they didn't get PAX, in 1997 or 1998 when they started. They had to put the work in and do this, and that it just takes time to build that audience. Now, you hit a point of critical mass, though. And just me from having read web comics and kind of hanging out with some of the artists and stuff, there's this growth where it's stupid slow, but then somebody mentions you on Reddit, or you become friends with another creator who links to you, and then suddenly you'll get that little spike, and if you're lucky, when the spike goes away, you're plateauing a little higher than you were before. And those little stair steps over time build up. It's just, can you wait that long? The old joke about don't quit your day job. Don't.
No.
I did, and it's not fun being hungry. So, ramen becomes your friend.
To me, it boils down to why are you doing this in the first place? Are you doing it because you want to do this, because you have a story to tell, or you think you're funny? Or are you doing it because you want to be the next Penny Arcade?
And you're going to fail.
Yeah.
If
That's me. When I was on
something
Drunk
that
Up and getting 10 hits a day, I didn't care because this is what I want to do. I want to tell these jokes. I like these characters. And like I told him last night, sitting up there on this side of the table with a book in front of me, I've achieved my life goal. Now, where do I go from here? It's the little bit. It's the reason why you do it. I do it because I love it. And if I have 10 hits today, or if I have 100,000, it doesn't change why I do it. Do another script tomorrow. It just comes down to this is what I want to do, and this is what I love to do. And the joy I get out of it is much more than the work I put into doing it.
Yeah, the point is you just can't really help doing it.
well, I hear there's money in these webcomics somewhere. So
Yeah.
you're not
The money would be nice, but
right. Yeah.
There is money, really?
I have
but
heard.
when you look at the fact that there's 60,000 webcomics and less than 100 people make a living, not get rich, make a living. doing them, it's lightning in a bottle to do this for a living.
But you can.
Yeah, but you
Smart.
can, yeah.
I mean, and when I say
But-
you're smart, you have to be smart about the choices you make.
Yeah.
Don't, I mean, once you start building that audience, I think I've heard people talk about okay, this guy has 100,000 readers, but he's a complete ass and nobody's going to buy anything from him. She has 10,000 readers and they love her. And so, when it comes to selling books, he sells 50 or 60 books, and she sells out of all the books that she brings to the con, even though she has a tenth of the readers he has. Because if you can get that audience and be involved with them, interact with them. I mean, and I keep going back to Twitter and Facebook because that's what I live on Twitter now. And it's just, interact. Somebody says something to you, say something back. It's like, hey, saw you at the con. Hey, yeah, it's great meeting you. Don't be phony, but I mean, at least acknowledge, hey, they took the time to say hey to you. Say hey back. Yeah, I had a lot of fun at the con. Thanks for coming out. Something. Or, hey, did you see that new, Adult Swim that came out last? Oh yeah, I thought it was great. It's funny. Haha. Have conversations with your fans, or your readers, or the people who hate you. I mean, I got a piece of hate email, and I was so happy. It's like
They cared enough to actually
I
email
am making it. Somebody hates me. I have pissed somebody off enough that they took time to write an incoherent email that they hope something very bad happens to me and my mother, and there's some question about my mother's practices at night. But still, I made you that angry. It's awesome. And you think I draw like a drunken chimpanzee. So you hate my art style too, but you still read it.
I'm sorry about that email. I didn't know you at that time.
And I had been drinking through that stage, so.
My favorite bit of criticism I've gotten was somebody told me that my comic was unfriendly to advertisers, which I still haven't figured out. But it is one of the comments that I put on the back of my book for what people think of the script. So, yeah.
Unfriendly to advertisers.
Yeah, honestly, the back, all the
That should be your
blurbs.
next book title.
It was going to be this one. My next one was actually Handed Hollow to Electric Boogaloo. But the back of my book, that's all it is the negative comments that people have said about my comic. Just because that's why, it's like, screw you. I'm still here.
I'm actually proud of you.
Yeah. Because like him, yeah. Because that's why. Because somebody doesn't like me. Hallelujah.
It's just about the right kind of people hating you.
Yeah. So I said that last night. I said, you want to be successful, you just have to piss off the right person.
Yeah.
And then they'll go and tell everybody.
Well, that used to be the joke in how to build an audience in the old days of webcomics, was that if you wanted to get a lot of eyes on your page, find somebody like Penny Arcade or Scott Kurtz or one of these webcomics, and do a comic about that person being an idiot. And then they'd hear about it and go, well, this damn knitting person made a joke about me, and here's the link to it. I mean, I can't believe look what she said about me. And so 30,000 people come over and go, oh, we'll see what she said about it. That was kind of funny.
The bad review I got, I'm like, all right, I'm not a real knitter, but I'll take your 80 hits. Like the first 2 months, okay.
Yeah, that didn't work. I did a joke about Brad Geiger and gave him the script and made me sign it and took it home with him. And laughed the whole time. Like, damn you, Geiger.
I need you to be pissed off. You're supposed to say something mean. Those days are pretty much past. I mean, because now a lot of the artists, they're not going to link. It's just, it doesn't look professional. This is the attitude a lot of people have. So back in the day, there were link exchanges. People would have a page where it was like, I'll put your banner up on this page if you put my banner up on your page. And so you'd have pages of just banners of, hey, here's the comics I read. And so everybody was friendly and happy, and then Project Wonderful came along, and it was like, hey, you can put your banner on my page. It's going to cost you 2 cents a day, but feel free to, drop it up there. Okay, fine. So it's a paid link exchange now. But you don't get that friendly, I don't know, everybody's like, hey, we're all doing comics together, and hey, you're cool, and you're pretty funny, so let's put our links on this page. You don't get that so much from the big guys.
Definitely not with the big people, but there's a lot of people that do really network a lot online. I mean, I definitely, like, I already met you on Twitter before I met you this weekend, and definitely, like, we all have our little, cadres that hang out on Twitter and like different message boards. And, yeah, you should.
No, I mean, one of the things I do when I see, other cartoonists who follow me, and we're all, if there's an A list, I'm like D or E. But whenever they, say, I updated my comic, I give them a retweet. I mean, I don't have a million followers, but okay, hey guys, I'm interested in his comic, and people who are interested in my comic that follow me, I was like, well, they, if they like my comic, they might like his comic, so I'll retweet. And you pass along, you see, you build those friendships, and they're like, well, he retweeted me, so I'll retweet him, and she retweeted her, and so I like her, so I probably like her, so so you build those little networks of friends, and all of a sudden you start having people saying, oh hey, there's a new Reality Amok, and I haven't even tweeted that there's a new one out yet. It just it just uploaded. I'm like, okay, thanks.
There's also some web pages that do. I know for any comics that are either written or drawn by women, there's Tom Geeks, and they have pages of they have them all separated. There's history ones or fantasy ones, and you should probably be on there.
I don't think I'm on it.
Yeah. So they post, and so I mean I don't get a lot of hits from it, but I get a consistent number of hits.
And there's still webcomics lists. I mean, some of them. I mean, the top 100. I don't even look for that.
Oh my god, I think I'm
but
500.
The actual.
I vote every day.
It's called the webcomics list, and all it is just the list of comics. I still see in my Google Analytics that I'm getting hits from there, just from being listed, and it's like, okay, it's not a lot of hits,
every little bit,
but it's a hit. Somebody was scrolling through that list and went, oh, check this out. Okay, I mean, some of recently updated. All right, you go through, you read all the stuff that was updated today. Well, if you update consistently, they're going to see you there consistently. They build that habit, and they start coming back. And if you can get them to subscribe to that RSS, it makes it so much easier.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm really into Google Reader. Like, I read that every
All my comics, everything.
Yeah.
I read probably 500 comics.
And I'm always so happy when somebody liked my comic on Google Reader,
Somebody likes me.
Yeah. It's just like a little thumbs up.
Yeah, I said, oh, I have an email.
Yeah.
The only thing that comes into my email, besides the occasional hate mail, is your hosting is due. Oh,
I actually started getting real questions with the Ask Any Princess. I mean, before it was just me asking myself questions, which was really stupid. But then I started, I've actually gotten a couple of actual questions from people I don't even know.
So is that like a comic where you draw it?
Yeah, they will say, I'll say, welcome to another edition of Ask Auntie Princess, and then the next one will be the email that I got, prettied up a little bit, and with a fake name, and then I answer their question. It's like, have a question for Ask Auntie Princess? Then email the princess at princess.com. So
That's
an actual, it's pretty cool. I don't know how I'm going to answer this one though. She doesn't want to use nice yarn and wonders why her stuff is not nice. Let's think about it.
What do you guys think about, when did you start doing merchandise, and what kind of merchandise do you have that you sell more often?
Don't do it when you're starting out. Don't waste your money and your time. Do your best work possible. And there's some exceptions.
Well,
I mean, like you were saying that you guys do the screen printing yourself. Okay, that's a great idea, because how much are you putting into it? I've got to pay $400 for a small run of silkscreen shirts. That's money I could be doing, something else with. I'm trying to come up with a t-shirt design. Nobody's going to buy my t-shirts. Who the hell are you? I've got 25 people reading my comic that day. They're not going to buy a shirt. I mean, you can look at feasibly marketing. What is it? 1% of your audience might actually buy something.
10%.
Yeah, see, the numbers are, no one really knows.
Yeah.
It's between 1 and 10%.
The webcomic, you know, the webcomic ink guys say figure 10% at
Yeah.
most.
Well, with what I've done as far as merchandise, if you can find a place that will do print on demand, then you don't have to pay a lot up front. So like we use Kablam sort of for the small comics and create space for the books. And there we found a t-shirt place that does it. So we've got t-shirt designs, but we're not actually fronting a lot of money. It's because they order, they print it, they ship it, it's their problem. And you know,
But still, I think the first couple of years, your focus should be,
yeah, cool.
you really should work on putting the best comic out there. In my opinion, you know this, you know, like you were saying about, are you doing this to be a superstar, or are you doing this because you want to make a comic? Yeah, but if you can sell a shirt, by all means, my God, sell a shirt. I'm not telling anybody to be a starving artist, because screw that.
What about like books too, not just shirts? You know, like what did you start out like? What was you?
I still haven't.
Yeah, I've
only done 1 year on the comics. I don't have enough comics to make a nice book at this point. So I'm waiting, and I did the math, and I'm like, okay, if I do 3 comics a week, if I don't miss the updates, then every 13 and a half months I'll have enough comics to do a nice size, $15 to $20 book.
Yeah, I actually did. We do small comics through Kablam, which I want to say maybe 30 comics. But I have to put a knitting pattern in the back, and I did a border because the size of my comic did not fit the size of the page properly. So what we did is I just had little notes from the princess at the bottom. Like there's no such thing as too much stash, and that kind of thing at the bottom.
That works on so many
I
different
know. I know.
You should make that a shirt.
But it's princess going into a swimming pool full of yarn, so But so like I got little sayings at the bottom just to fill the space properly. We just actually like 2 weeks ago came out with a big book, which is a little over 100 comics and 5 knitting patterns and border.
See, you're adding though, you're giving more than the comic.
Right.
You have that extra content with the knitting pattern.
Yeah.
And that's one thing to think about, is that extra content.
Yeah.
Why I can get it for free online? Why the hell am I going to pay $20?
But I mean, and you don't have to do necessarily even knitting patterns. I guess it probably would work for most comics. But like essays and like you can do more stuff than even just for comics if you're worried about want to add a little extra stuff like bonuses that you won't get online. I mean, right now, the pattern that I have in the first small comic is available with a donation. The donation could be a penny, but it's available with a donation, or you can pay $3 to get the book. So, and then you get comics too, and we actually have them there.
I did like a director's commentary for some of my scripts, like like a run thing. Like this is the first appearance of Biscuit Pete, and like a date, or like I did a comic for No Dialogue Day, and it's like this is the comic I did for No Dialogue Day, or just like a director's commentary for some of the scripts, and in the back I have like some of the early sketches and my Dave Reddick fan art. And I did a pitch for a website for a webcomic, and I put the 4 strips I did for them and the pitch in the back. So I mean, it's just if you do a book, it's
sketches.
Yeah, and sketches.
Do a sketch section. Here's some of my early concepts for
Yeah.
Mine comics actually also black and white, so it's a little bit less expensive to print.
Oh yeah.
That.
Well,
Mine
that's
too, 'cause, people say color theory, and I'm like, yeah, I know color exists. So. Yeah, in theory, it's like, I do black and white.
You'll see a huge, if you're doing print on demand, well, I think any printer, there's going to be that difference between black and white and print. My comic now is full color online. I looked at the prices, there's no way I'm going to be able to do a book run full color, and make any kind of money off of it, or have it at a price point that people will buy it. I can drop the price low enough for people to buy it, but then I'm making 5 cents a book. And
you should talk to Eric from after. His book Extern is full color.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he charges $20, so I don't know how he does it, but.
Does it get it through Creative Space?
Yeah.
See, I'm hearing a lot of people with this Create Space.
Well, because Create Space is owned by Amazon, so once it's on Create Space, they also put it on Amazon.
Yes.
I mean, you make a little bit less money, but dude, you can go to Amazon, type in my name, and there's a book there.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Me too.
Some of these places, like, you got a discount for buying a bulk, didn't you?
They do a thing called a think it's their Publishers Club, where you pay like another $39, you get an ISBN, and you get it on
Yeah.
Amazon, and
It
you get a
has
discount on the
an ISBN.
books. Yeah.
Which I'm
Because I know
totally my
Lulu-
next tattoo.
That was,
ISBN.
and I know with Lulu, who does print on demand also, if you buy like 50 books, they'll give you
Yeah.
a cheaper rate than what you get when you're just selling it one book at a time, because they
Yeah.
know you're taking it to a con or a
Yeah,
trade show or
I'm
something.
doing a knitting convention next month, and so we ordered.
That scares me. There's knitting conventions.
I'm actually doing 3 next year. I'm going to California for one.
It's brilliant though,
Yeah.
because how many webcomics are going to be at that knitting convention?
It's pretty much me.
You and that other one.
Well, yeah. Well, Hand of Heroes isn't even there either, so I'm going to be the only comic
You
at
are the
Stitches
only
East.
game in town, so.
And there's like 10,000 people go to Stitches East. So, and the marketplace is unbelievable, and I'm the only comic there. So, it's like, it's crazy, because I kind of got treated like a rock star. It was awesome, and I had to go back to working at a cube. This sucks. Where's my tiara?
I load unair-conditioned metal trucks.
Yeah.
So the con is fun.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, and that's another, if you have a niche, if they do conventions, you don't have to only do comic conventions. I'm not saying don't do comic book conventions, but I mean, if you're doing an IT comic, and there's an IT convention, see about getting a booth there, because I mean, for me, the odds of me finding a knitter at a comic book convention is a lot lower than the odds of me finding a person who might be interested in a comic at a knitting convention, because it's about knitting. So
Even
that
people who
helps.
wouldn't consider a comic about knitting.
Right.
Now they're walking by, oh, I like knitting, I've got my big bag of yarn, and
Yeah.
oh, look, a comic.
Yeah. Last year at Stitches East, all I had volumes 1 and 2 of the floppies that I was selling $3 or 2 for $5, and in 3.5 days I sold $226.
Yeah.
And like 5 or 6 T-shirts, which really, because at the time I only had one style of T-shirts, and it was just pictures of the characters and yarn.
And it's funny because usually pictures of your characters
It doesn't sell very
don't
well.
sell. I mean, in most webcomics, but
Right. So, but I sold signature shirts too, and I have buttons. The cat button sold out. It's your character, and I'm starting to take it a little personally. But so,
Do you have any knitted merchandise?
I actually don't sell knitted stuff because even if I charge minimum wage, if people can't afford, people aren't going to pay $250 for socks. I mean, that's just not realistic.
yeah.
But no, I do have patterns.
It's
and
like an
actually-
outsource.
Yeah. Well, at some point I wanted.
I'll get you with my people.
At some point, I wanted to do a photo booth because Hannah Harris did that at another one, and they had a really good reaction. So hers is superhero knitting. So she has like knitted masks. So people would put on masks and like pose for the camera, and then that night they would be posted online. So she did really, really well because she just drew people in. So I'm trying to get knit princess
That's a cute idea.
stuff so I can do a photo booth at a knitting convention too.
Yeah.
So I need a knitted cat.
Speaking of conventions, I just started doing them this year, and I don't know, somebody asked me yesterday, oh, did you get like traffic spikes from being at conventions? And I'm like, well, I don't know about spikes, you know, I mean, that's more like, you know, somebody famous Twitters a link to the website kind of spike, you know. But the conventions, like, you get more, you know, press, you know, like people from, you know, some like random blog might like interview me for a minute and then post about me on their blog or something, or that kind of thing would happen at a convention. And then like this whole week, I did look at my traffic reports like the other day, and people were coming in for the intervention website, you know, which was pretty cool. So, I mean, I don't know if going to conventions, honestly, I kind of just think it's more just for fun than anything else. I mean, I love meeting people, and, you know, that's kind of it. We are selling t-shirts, F. Scott Fitzgerald shirts are top seller. It says, I want to F. Scott Fitzgerald.
Snowman, one's missing his head, and shit just got real.
Thanks for checking that out. Yeah. Actually, I drew that in the emergency room. Because I was like, damn, shit just got real. Okay, so I was at the emergency room. Oh my god. that's actually like what I love about comics. Like all of our comics are pretty funny, I think. And then I mean, I just love laughing, you know. And coming to the convention, you meet so many cool, funny people, you know. So anyway, so I don't know if like there's really a lot of utility to going to conventions, but it's a lot of fun.
You know, if you're trying to be the money side of it and actually make some money with the conventions, one, don't go to a convention if you don't have something to sell. I mean,
Yeah, if
why
you're
else
just going to
would
post pictures and
you
they
can
aren't for
get-
sale, there's no.
you can get more money or more return for your money through Project Wonderful. I mean, if you're going to be out $500 for a room for a week and travel expenses and rental car or whatever, or metro fare, all that money, take a quarter of that and pump it into advertising. Or, you know, paying the comic press guys to do a complete site redesign and build you something awesome that way. There are better things to do with your money. But if you're going to the con and you have a book, okay, how many books do I need to sell to make back my expenses? You're not going to do it at first because nobody knows who the hell you are. Get some flyers, get some books, and what we were saying, you know, what's the goal?
We're trying to cover our parking for the weekend.
Parking.
That's our goal.
There's 3 books and parking's covered.
Yeah.
See,
I sold 2.
So a book away and his goal is met. But I mean,
But it's,
I
and
feel like we're
it's
on a
also,
telethon now.
Who will buy the 3rd book?
this happened.
If I sell 13, I can get Rock Band 3.
I mean, my wife made me take them down, but I made a series of ads with, you know, little drawings of my kids, and it said, you know, please read Daddy's comic so we'll stop drinking. And she said, no. What are people thinking? It's like, well, you know, my first draft was so he'll stop beating us. But, you know,
That could get you in more trouble.
cons are good for networking too.
Right.
So meeting a
that's
lot
a
of
big
people.
advantage, isn't it? I now know, you know, these 4, I mean,
Right.
he's right across the aisle from me, so we've been chatting back and forth. So there's a good chance that, you know, we're going to be on Twitter together now, and I see him post hey, my site's updated, I'm going to retweet it. So that's building that network. I shared the elevator with Brad Geiger going up, you know, upstairs. So it's like, oh, hey, you know, saw you at the other con. Oh, yeah, good to see you, you know. Off chance, you know, I reinforced that little, okay, yeah, he's another comic
Did you
creator
get
in his
into
head.
an elevator pitch?
No, he's heard that one at the last con. And he said, please stop. You know, there is a court order.
I met someone at the knitting convention I went to last year. I met someone, and I made it into a print magazine, like just a review of my comic with a picture of the comic, and a picture of us went up on their blog, and it went to, you know, all the members of the Knitting Guild of America.
Wow.
That comes with the memberships, and I met someone else, and that's why I'm doing exclusive comics for the online knitting one.
Right.
So you meet a lot of people, and you never know where there's going to be opportunities. Another thing to do, podcasts, because podcasts, if they're regular and like weekly, they need guests, so you can come on and talk on their podcast.
Even if they're not looking for guests, go to the chat room and be interesting. And not on, you know, intentionally going, oh yeah, woo, you know, draw attention to yourself. But whatever they're discussing, you know, just like the forum thing, you know, be involved and get involved with it. And I've seen several people who've gone from being in the audience of the podcast in their little chat rooms or whatever to actually being, you know, brought on for an interview because, oh hey, you do a webcomic? Oh, let me check it out. And then a few weeks later, it's like, oh yeah, we've got, you know, so-and-so on from the chat room, blah, blah, blah.
Even if you get, like, some of the knitting podcasts, they also have associated blogs.
There's knitting podcasts.
Dude, we need to talk.
I am
It's
just
a whole new world.
so impressed.
Okay, next year you need to be a knitter.
Awesome.
You'll be sitting here knitting.
That's where the audience is. I mean, I'm hearing her numbers in the T-shirt sales, and I'm thinking, I picked the wrong niche.
It's a big niche.
I'm introducing a knitting storyline.
So,
my room after this
but,
is
I
done.
mean, we made it into one of the larger knitting podcasts onto their blog. I'm still getting hits from March 2009's blog entry. So, you know, it helps. It really does. I mean, if you can get, you know, just get as involved in your target audience's area as you can, then that really helps. So, I mean, I'm knitting it's like, there's a website called Ravelry, which is for knitters. And there's a Knit Princess group on Ravelry, and I post, if I'm going to be at conventions, and we have it set up so that every time the comic updates in the group, on the group page, there's a link. And 50, 60 hits every time a new one comes up, just directly from the Ravelry group. So I only have 100 people, but I'm also in a bunch of other groups, and I'm Knit Princess on there, so they ask about that.
Oh, be consistent.
Yeah.
That with your name, your online personality, be consistent so people aren't, Fuzzy Girl 1969 is also the same as Thumbelina 47. I mean, why have a consistent persona? I mean, like on Twitter, I used to have I've always used Tobias as my online personality, but I started a Reality Amok account because that's the name of the strip. I want to build that brand awareness of, hey, I want you to remember Reality Amok. I want you, if I'm talking, you're going to see it, fine, and build that association. But they also know if they search for Tobias or Reality Amok, well, if they search for Reality Amok, they're going to find me. If they search for Tobias, they're going to find Tobias, the new pee-pee medicine for people with overactive bladders, because those bastards had Tobias for 15 years. And then they come out with their drug, and now they've got better search engine optimization than me, and they come up first now. I used to be the first Tobias. Second. It was the Tobias surname, me, and then everything else. And now it's pee-pee medicine.
That sounds like it.
Okay, when I first started out, my comic's name is Painted Holler. I mean, how many times are you going to hear that in your life? I heard it on Discovery Channel special, Deep South woman say, they call it the Painted Holler. Most other people call it Haunted Holler. But like, how hard, how bad is that going to be? That's going to be just, you search where it's going to come up. But no, what beat me for months was the Slut of Painted Holler, XXX. Online comic. Really? Really?
I thought bringing up knitting patterns for Princess Leia
was that
was bad.
No, Painted Holler. The Slut of Painted Holler.
Oh, no.
Are they associated with you?
But now I'm finally beating them.
Yeah, I think it was just this past year when I'm first on Sticky Comics. It's just me, but I think last year it was this gay erotic comic called Sticky. I was like, well, that's art. That art is better than mine. So, at least it makes me look good, kind of.
Does anyone have any last questions? I think we're almost out of time.
We're like down to one question if anybody's got anything.
Anything? Okay. I'm in booth 40, if you think of questions later.
Oh, right, I'm booth 70.
I'm booth 9.
I'm booth 44.
Yeah, come look for us.
And thank you for coming to the panel.
Yeah, thank you, John.
Thank you.